Good evening. I'd like to call the City of Twinsburg's regular council meeting of February 23rd, 2021 to order. The time is 7:30 p.m. We are at the Twinsburg Government Center, Council Chambers. The meeting is being held hybrid with council in person and public participation via Zoom due to the current COVID-19 statewide guidelines. Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Here.
Mr. Scafidi?
Here.
Mr. Bellin?
Here.
Mr. Fury?
Here.
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Present. The invocation and pledge of allegiance will be led by Mrs. Walker.
O God, from whom all powers come, by whose divine will all must abide, we thank you for our civil liberties and freedom, for our opportunities and our privileges. We beg of you to bless, assist, and enlighten this council and representatives of the city of Twinsburg. May we prove worthy of the confidence placed in us by our fellow citizens. May we be just and upright in their thinking, honest in all our actions, and ever be guided by a true conscience in the legislature we propose to vote upon. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of the regular council meeting from February 9th, 2021?
Yeah.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes as submitted.
A second.
Fury made a motion. Mr. Bellin, second. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes. The approval of the minutes passes 7-0. Do we have any awards or presentations this evening?
There are none.
Do we have any audience participation this evening?
There is none.
Moving on to council communication and committee reports. Mrs. Stoffer?
Okay. Well, I attended tonight's Finance Committee meeting along with the rest of council. I'm sure Mr. Scafidi will give a report on that. On Wednesday, February 10th at 6 o'clock, I attended the Comprehensive Plan Committee virtual meeting. Mr. Finch and Ms. Muter put together a very thorough presentation updating the current projections for the city. Some of the big takeaways for me, and I have a copy of it. I'm sure Mr. Finch will probably provide it to everyone. But some of the big takeaways for me was global trends. He talked about how the aging, the lower birth rates and increasingly older ages, smaller households, and the need for housing designed for the older population. They're projecting that the number of older Americans will more than double from 2010 to 2050. So it seems that the whole the comprehensive update, what we're going to focus a lot on is sustainability. We did, let's see. Also, another thing was that he explained that we're pretty much built out, which probably isn't a surprise to a lot of people. But our population's at around 19,200. And they're estimating that our built-out population will be 21,000. So we're getting there. So that was just some of the things that I pulled out of that. Again, I'm sure he's going to talk to you a lot more about that, and we're going to be meeting again to take a look over the plan. On February 16th, I attended the Kent State University Advisory Board meeting. What they saw at the beginning of a lot of the year, they had a lot of transfer students at the beginning of the year, mostly due to the pandemic. Some of the updates, now there's a slight decline in their enrollment. They're currently surveying students to see what their intentions are. Right now, everything continues to be virtual, but probably easier if I take this down, huh? Their next meeting will be meeting with the president of Kent State on March 5th in a virtual meeting. On Thursday, February 18th, I attended the ARB meeting. On the agenda were 6 items. The first was case 210216 at 9475 Chamberlain. There was a detached garage by Tailored Construction. It was approved as noted, note being that the roof asphalt shingle needed to match the house. The second case, 210217 at 1983 Heron Cove, was an addition, and that is approved as submitted. Third case, 9840 Ravenna Road. It was a sign review by Easy Sign Group for On Your Toes Dance Studio. That was approved also. Fourth was 1820 Sunview, an addition. That was approved as noted, just with a window addition over top. And then 18101 Andover Drive had a sunroom that was also approved as submitted. At 2695 Creekside, there was a sign review by Fast Signs for a new business called Finders Keepers. That was approved as submitted. The next ARB meeting is scheduled for March 4th at 6 p.m. On Monday, February 18th, I attended the JEDI, the Special Committee for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion at the Twinsburg Government Center, and the goal was there to establish goals and objectives for Community Relations Subcommittee, and we did do that. I think Ms. Walker was there. I'm not sure, Ms. Walker, if you want to report on that. The next meeting for that is March 8th at 7 p.m. Let's see, what else do I have? That's it. That's all I have. It's a busy couple of weeks.
Yeah. Mr. Bellin.
Thank you. Good evening. I attended this evening's Finance Committee meeting. I will defer to Mr. Scafidi for that report. I also attended last night's JEDI Committee meeting, again, Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. We had another wonderful meeting. This time it was via Zoom. We discussed activities and goals of the Community Relations Subcommittee, which I will be a part of, along with several residents, Twinsburg police officers, and Mary Yates. The next JEDI Committee meeting will be held on Monday, March 8th at 6 p.m. That one will be here in Council Chambers. The next BZA meeting will be held tomorrow, Wednesday, February 24th at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. And the Public Works Committee is scheduled to meet on Tuesday, April 13th at 6 p.m. here in Council Chambers. Nothing further this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Scafidi.
Thank you. Good evening. Yes, we did have a Finance Committee meeting earlier. And what we had tonight, we had 4 department heads here to talk about their permanent appropriations for 2021. We had a representative from the Building Department, Economic Development and Planning Department, Engineering and Infrastructure, and of course the Finance Department, led by Sarah Bucci-Gross, our Finance Director. So each one of those went through their appropriations, their permanent appropriations, and Council had an opportunity to ask any questions that they may have to them. Then Sarah went over, she had a pretty good presentation that went through our revenue generation and our expense reductions. She went through an update to our temporary appropriations, which included our revenue and our expenses. She went over the 2021 permanent appropriation statistics. And she did mention that I found was interesting, the total appropriations, they were reduced by 21.68% over last year from the original appropriation. But when you back out the clubhouse and the restaurant and banquet facility, the actual was 6.13%. It was reduced by. So, I mean, I think that everybody here is going in the right direction. The administration is doing the best that they can. You know, when she talked about expense reductions, most of that was all staffing that had been reduced. So I know that everybody's working very hard to keep our finances in check and doing what we can to keep the expenses down. So that was it. The meeting ended, and our next meeting will be March 23rd at 6 o'clock here in the Government Center, and that's it. The rest of my committees have not met yet. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to report next. I am on the Finance Committee along with Mr. Barr and Mr. Speedy. Thank you for the excellent recap of our meeting. And I just want to thank everyone on council for attending the finance meetings, not just this one, but I know you all attend because it's so important for our city. So I just want to acknowledge that. And move on to Mr. Fury.
Thank you and good evening. The Environmental Commission will meet on March 2nd, and it will be a virtual meeting. I attended the comprehensive plan meeting with Mrs. Stoffer virtually as well. And I attended a community relations meeting this month, which is the Community Relations Board is represents the Chamber, Reminderville, the library, and the schools, along with the City of Twinsburg, to go over activities and items that we might have in common so we can work together. The Chamber reported that the State of the City, they're working with Mayor Yates to have that on April 22nd, and that their golf outing would be at Glen Eagles on August 13th. Reminderville wanted to thank the Twinsburg Fire Department for all their work on mutual aid and for dispatching. They thought they were doing a fantastic job and really appreciated the service that we were providing. Township said they have a significant amount of road work up by Haddon this summer, and will be redoing their service garage. The library is open, and they're open Monday through Thursday, 9:30 to 8 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 10 to 6, and they're closed on Sunday. And the schools, the superintendent wanted to tell us that 415 teachers have been given the first vaccination. Mrs. Stoffer can attest to that, as well as several city employees, including 10 police officers, received their first vaccination as well. The next meeting will be on June 17th at 5 p.m. This weekend, Councilman Bob McDermott, who passed away after a long illness at home, and Bob was a member, a three-term council member. We ran together in 2003, and he was elected 3 times for Ward 2. Bob taught me as much about city finance as anybody else I've dealt with, and was really instrumental in talking about how we could control spending by requiring transfer ordinances. Sam was here in that time. In the beginning, they did all the transfers throughout the year, and at the end of the year there was one long transfer ordinance that you would have to pass, but those decisions were already made. And it took a couple of years, but once that was in place, that really changed the way that we looked at the money and could have input as a council on how to control city spending. And that was Bob's idea and implementation. He had also been a volunteer fireman in his past, and we were also, Sam and the other council people that were there at the time were able to get a second fire station put in Fire Station 2, which at the time was somewhat controversial. Some people didn't think we needed it. Can we imagine serving the city of Twinsburg now without the second fire station on that side? And Corbett's Farm was in place there, so in your ward and your house wasn't built, but when you were in Meadowwood, it was up to 9 minutes to get from this fire station up around down the hill to get to somebody's house, when the goal was I think 4 minutes. So that was a really big deal to increase the safety of the Ethans area and the Meadowwood area on this side of the city, and Bob was a big part of that. And he'll be missed. He was a good friend, and if you could keep his family in your thoughts and prayers. Good man. Thank you. That's all I have.
I think it would be cute to make sure we'll speak into our mics. Mr. Barr. It's right there.
Good evening. Thank you. Last evening, I attended the Planning Commission meeting. The meeting was held virtually via Zoom. There was one item on the agenda. It was for a piece of vacant land on Dutton Drive, permanent parcel number 64-04393. And basically, the applicant was seeking a lot split. No site plan has been submitted, but the applicant does have a trucking business he intends to open on the split parcels. Planning did approve the lot split unanimously, and that concluded the meeting last night. The next Planning Commission meeting is currently scheduled for March 15th at 7 p.m. Although it is scheduled in council chambers, it will most likely be Zoom unless something changes. The only other item would be Safety Committee is scheduled for March 9th at 6 p.m., which would be before our next council meeting. I don't know if there are any items on the agenda at this time, but
There's one.
one item on the agenda. Okay, so we'll most likely have that meeting. None of my other committees have met at this time. That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Walker.
Thank you. I also attended the finance meeting today, and also I was a part of the community relations meeting with Lynn Muter and Larry Finch, they really gave, I'm sorry, I'm getting things mixed up. The Twinsburg Comprehension Plan I attended, Lynn Muter and Larry Finch did an excellent job in explaining, not so much the history of Twinsburg, but the way that Twinsburg, they could see it and project, and Maureen did a wonderful job regarding the seniors, the average years that the average age of a person that's in the city of Twinsburg. It was really great. And Lynn did mention that she was going to follow up with a folder for us. I attended the Justice, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and, like Maureen was there, Mr. Bellin was there. I'm sorry, Mrs. Stauffer. And we worked on the community relations and how we're going to form it and what we're going to do. And I was also a part of the community relations. And Mr. Fury stated about Reminderville, Twinsburg, the township, chamber, and the schools. And I just want to know, I used to be a part of this committee a long time ago, and I was trying to find my paperwork, but I will be meeting with the Chamber of Commerce. I forget her name, but anyway, we're going to meet tomorrow, Allison, by way of phone, so we could talk about the mission statement and what the purpose is. Has it changed since I was a member of this committee? And so we're just going to talk about that. It's going to be at 10:30. If you want to be a part of it, you can. I can, if there's any questions you need me to ask. I just want to be brought up to date since I haven't been at this meeting for about 10, 12 years. That's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, do you have anything to report this evening?
I do. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to, for those that were trying to tune into our finance meeting, I apologize. It was some technical difficulties with redoing this room, and I know we've been scrambling to try to get the technology working right. So I think, we're going to have it on YouTube, but we did have some difficulties, so I do apologize for that. I want to spend a little bit of time, and I apologize, just make it a little bit lengthy, but as we move into May and the tax levy, proposed tax levy that's going to be on the ballot in May, the 2.4, I received a set of questions. Council actually received a set of questions today that was forwarded to me, and we provided some responses, but I thought the questions were very good. I thought they were very fair to what's being proposed. So I'm going to kind of go through a little bit of them today just to share, and it may be something that the residents have questions over, or it may help answer some questions that you may have in the future. But the ordinance that was passed, 04-2021, was a procedural ordinance to get a 2.4 mil police and fire levy on the ballot. And so one of the questions that came up was, in that particular ordinance, there's language that talks about the amount of taxes being raised is within the 10 mil limitation, which is the constitutional statutory right of municipalities, will be insufficient for fully funding the needs. And this gets a little technical, of sections 5075.19, which are the police and fire sections of a tax levy when it's being proposed. So what that's stating is that our inside millage, which we have both inside millage and charter millage, of 2.83 is insufficient to fully fund our police and fire departments. And that's what that procedural part of the ordinance is stating. It's very rare that a municipality seeks voted millage without exhausting all of their inside millage, but that's what we're doing here in the city. And part of that was, through the survey and through a lot of the things that happened over the past year, we wanted to put the 2.4 on the ballot. So that's kind of why that language reads that way, being insufficient. Our total budget for police and fire, which would include dispatch, our capital, our pension expenses, and our operating expenses, is close to $11 million. So the 2.4 that's on the ballot and the 2.83 would generate, 1.7 million or $2 million, which is insufficient to fully fund our police and fire department. So that's why that language reads that way. I know some of this is confusing, but and then the next question by the resident was, if 2.83s are insufficient, why is the city only asking for 2.4? Well, the 2.4 represents the same 2.4 that council sought administratively through our charter millage last year. I think, myself and council felt it was, only right to, if we're going to put it on the ballot, to seek what we were looking to put into place for 2021, in 2020. So I think that's where that 2.4 comes from. And part of this creates a dedicated revenue source for police and fire, which we do not have today. Another question was, if ordinance for 2021 passed, it'll generate $1.7 million to help offset the funding of the police and fire pension and some of the capital. And they wanted to know what is going to be used once this money is freed up in the general fund, because right now the general fund subsidizes that. Well, again, when you look at our total expenditures for police and fire of about $11 million for our safety forces, the $1.7 million is going to help, but it's not going to fully fund those departments. There's other things that I think came up in the finance meeting today that we talk about when we look at freeing up money in the general fund. When we look at our road program, which is extremely important here in the city, if we were fully funding our road program based on a 20 to 25 year analysis of our roads, we would be in that $2.4 million range. The past few years, we've been $750,000 to $950,000. So we've done the roads that we can do within our budget based on the age and the condition of those roads. If we were to fully fund and catch up to where we need to, we would need additional funds to do that. So, so when you look at subsidies from the general fund, it does take away from our infrastructure funding and a lot of different things. So I think, I know there's a difficult questions to try to ask and answer by, get answered to a resident, but those are some of the questions that came about through this. Another question was, if 4.9, so when council approved it last in 2020, it was a 4.9 mil ask, and it was split between 2 years. And so they wanted to know if 4.9 was the correct increase, why is it changed to only 2.4 just for this particular tax levy? And I think a lot of that has to do with the position we're now in for 2021. We received CARES Act funding that did create a reserve in our general fund, along with all the staffing cuts and the operational costs that we took in 2020, helped create this, if you want to say, cushion for 2021. And based on the survey results, when we looked at the responses for either a property tax levy or we looked at the responses for an income tax levy, in essence, we believe we need both, but however, we didn't have the support for both. And so I think the 2.4, having that dedicated, more stable revenue stream for police and fire was the most important thing that we thought we should go after. So I think when you look at a couple of the final questions that was asked, and one of them was, ordinance for 2021 was not constructed the same way as the ordinance was back in 2020, meaning we listed out dedicated accounts that this money would go to. This is a police and fire levy, and the legislation that was passed indicates it's a police and fire levy. What they're referring to is our tax budget. So when we do our tax budget, if this passes and we do our tax budget next year, that ordinance approving the tax budget will have the 2.4 that's approved by the voters, and it will go into those dedicated accounts. Police pension, fire pension, and then an account's going to get created for police and fire capital. So I know I've said a lot, and it's probably very confusing, but I think those are some of the questions that were asked, and I'm sure we're going to get more, and there's going to be a continuing dialogue going on as we approach the May ballot. But I thought those were very good questions. I'm glad the resident asked them. I'm sure we're going to get more as we get closer and more information starts coming out. So I'll get off that topic for now and finish my report. A couple things that's happened in the past couple of weeks. We have a new restaurant in town, El Torito Tacos. I was able to go to their grand opening. This is on Ravenna Road near the Maceras Plaza, so it just opened up. I believe it was yesterday. So I encourage you to go, visit them and check it out. I was able to go to the birthday of Martha. I believe her last name is Top, T-A-P-P-E. And Martha is still, this was her 100th birthday. She's still living independently in the senior apartments, still does her own laundry. I just thought it was amazing. I actually had to check to make sure I was going to the right place, because I've done a few 100th birthdays, but usually they're at facilities where the people are needing a lot of care. But Martha is as feisty and as can be. I mean, it was funny because I was talking earlier and I said, if I make it to 100, I don't know that I'm going to be here in Twinsburg. I'm probably going to be on a beach somewhere, or in Costa Rica or somewhere. And I felt so bad because Martha basically said, gathered all her friends around in the room and said, I just want to let you know that if I won the lotto and there was any place I would rather be in the entire world, I would be right here in Twinsburg with all of you. And I was just like, oh, I felt terrible. So, but she was sweet as can be, and just was honored that they were making such a big deal for her 100th birthday. But I want to wish her well. A couple things happening. Fitness center, we're still progressing in terms of our opening, so we're going back to our after hours operations there. And so while we're open, you still have to enter through the front, but if you have a after hours pass, you can now get back in the back. So we'll have things set up in the back so you can have your sanitizing spray and your rags and all that kind of stuff. Let's see. There's some work going on the golf course, the pond on number 3. So I don't know if anyone's noticed that or if you've gotten calls from residents council, but this was part of a lot of our stormwater drainage funnels through our stormwater pipes into that lake and dumps onto that lake. It's operated well. When we had that huge rain that impacted a few residents, we wanted to go ahead and be proactive and go ahead and dredge out that particular area where that outlet is. So we've got service department doing that right now. So if you see some construction equipment over there or get some questions, that's what's happening. I did also attend the JEDI committee. I'm really excited about this group. We're starting to form our subcommittees, and I'm very hopeful and looking forward to a lot of the dialogue that's going to come out of these meetings and some of the subcommittee meetings in the future. So I know everyone in here that's part of those groups are excited about that also. My State of the City, it was mentioned, is going to be April 22nd. This is a little bit later than what we usually plan it. Usually I do it in February. I've already pretty much done it by now. However, I really enjoy doing it to a live audience, and I'm hoping that by April I can at least have some people in the room when I do it. And so that's kind of the plan, and it gets us, past hopefully some of the restrictions on gatherings, and give some time for the chamber to be involved. But last year was the first year in a long time we've done it in the evening, and so I may end up doing kind of 2 State of the Cities, a morning one and an evening one, because I really enjoyed doing it for the residents. So For those residents that attended last year or missed it and would like to attend this year, I will be doing an evening one for the residents also. So we're planning that right now. And then lastly, I just also want to share my condolences with Bob McDermott's family. And, you know, I got to spend 4 years with Bob on council, and he was feisty and strong-willed, but, you know, he loved the city, and he dug in when it came to finances. He had a very unique smile and laugh, and I did learn from him on the 4 years I was able to spend on council with him, and I know he's going to be missed, and I know he's got a lot of friends here in town, and so I just want to share my condolences with his family. So, and that is all I have.
Moving on to legislation and ordinance 07-2021.
An ordinance amending chapter 1173 of the codified ordinances of the city of Twinsburg regarding signs.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 07-2021. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bellum, second. Ordinance 07-2021, it's on its third reading, and this will update the city's sign ordinance. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to once again thank Mr. Maestros and Mary Yates for all the work that you guys have done on this ordinance. I know that there are several residents that feel it's very much overdue. And I know that it was not an easy ordinance to write. I know there's a ton of language in there, so I appreciate all the work that you did. Thank you.
I'd like to say that, you know, some of the residents were focusing on the political sign aspect of this. It's a 21-page rewrite of our sign ordinance, which covers how we don't have billboards in the city of Twinsburg, how we do electronic signs, how we do business signs, and how they work with our ARB. It's an extremely comprehensive sign ordinance, and, you know, again, the political sign part of it really is handled in one paragraph of temporary signs. So there's a lot more work to this than people thought, and I think it was very well done, and I'm going to support it. Thank you.
Okay, Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Ordinance 07-2021 passes 7-0. Ordinance, sorry, I'm going to read it. 13-2021.
An ordinance authorizing the sale at auction of certain personal property owned by the city of Twinsburg and no longer needed for municipal purposes.
This is the second reading for the auction items. There will be additions to the list prior to the next council meeting. Is there any discussion at this time? Ordinance 14-2021.
The permanent appropriation ordinance for 2021 approved by council from estimates submitted by the mayor, providing for the ordinary expenses and other necessary expenses of the city of Twinsburg, Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021.
This is the first reading for the permanent appropriations. Total budget amount is $41,746,265.18. Is there any discussion or questions at this time? Ordinance 15-2021.
An ordinance accepting the bid of Parent Asphalt Company for the 2021 road improvement project and declaring an emergency.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place ordinance 15-2021 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Barr, second. The reason for the emergency is to be able to get the project started as soon as possible. Is there any discussion on the emergency? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Okay, I make a motion to adopt ordinance 15-2021 as an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Barr, second. Okay, ordinance 15-2021 is to award the bid for the 2021 road program. The total amount is $766.70. This includes work on sidewalks, catch basins, inlet maintenance, road work, and miscellaneous paving related to railroad tracks in coordination with the rail company. Is there any discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Ordinance 15-2021 passes 7-0. Ordinance 16-2021.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a joint improvement agreement with Glen Willow, Macedonia, and Oakwood for the Richmond, Shepherd, Broadway, and Ravenna Road intersection improvement project and declaring an emergency.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place ordinance 16-2021 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second. Oh, I'll yield.
Mrs. Walker seconds. The reason for the emergency is to be able to get the agreement signed as soon as possible and over to the other communities. Is there any discussion on the emergency?
Yes. I would just like to say I thank you so very much. You must have been reading my minds, because every time I go down Richmond Road, try to make a left-hand turn on Ravenna Road, it's like somebody is aiming at my car all the time. So this is a godsend right here, this emergency.
Any other discussion? Shannon, please call roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 16-2021 as an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Stoffer seconds. The project total is $2,826,866.50, of which the city's portion is $188,479. And the emergency is to allow the agreement to be processed in a timely manner. Is there any discussion?
We've been talking about this for quite a while. I was
Correct.
trying to look at the date. It's been a long time, 2013 maybe, when we started discussing it.
Yeah, this project's been under the works for a long time, and this is four communities coming together to really get this done. And in 2014-15, this was really a challenging project to get all four communities in line, but a lot of work's been done by Amy Moore and the other communities. I know Glen Willow and Macedonia and Oakwood. A lot of work's been done, so yeah, I'm glad to finally see it happen.
Not to mention 4 communities in 2 counties. So.
Right, yeah, a lot of work, so
Mhm.
glad to see it getting here.
Okay, Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Ordinance 16-2021 passes 7-0. Ordinance 17-2021.
An ordinance establishing Chapter 743 of the codified ordinances of the city of Twinsburg titled Mobile Food Vehicle Regulations.
This is the first reading on the food truck regulations. Are there any questions at this time? Moving on to unfinished business, new business, and miscellaneous. I'd like to make a motion that the city council does not oppose the new liquor permit for Sushi N, Twinsburg, Inc. on Hayden Road, and authorize the clerk to submit the form to the Ohio Division of Liquor Control. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury, second. This is for the new D5 permit. Is there any questions or discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. I did want to bring up that there are still some boards and commissions that there are openings. So there's a new deadline for applying, and that would be Friday, March 26th, 2021 by 4:30 p.m. The openings, there's 2 for the Architectural Review Board. There's 1 opening for the Environmental Commission, which may be a teen candidate. And then the Parks and Recreation Commission, Ward 1 is open. They will be posted on the website tomorrow. So on unfinished business, Mr. Scafidi?
Thank you. Yeah, I just have one thing. I too want to send out my condolence to Bob McDermott's family in his passing. You know, I had the opportunity to work with Bob the entire time that he served on our city council. And one thing I know for sure, Bob wasn't afraid to speak his mind and say what he thought. And he did have a lot of good ideas. Bob's going to be missed a lot by, I'm sure, a lot of people in our community. So, again, I just want to pass out my condolences to their family in his passing. And I wish them all Godspeed. God wish them well. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Walker?
Thank you. I would like to give my condolences to the McDermott family. And, of course, I ran against Bob. That's how we became friends. And, he helped me out. I helped him out. And, continue to pray for the family. I just want to, if I could take a few minutes to give like a little bit of Black history, if you don't mind. And just to let you know, during the days of Dr. Martin Luther King, when he was walking from Selma, Alabama to the White House, and the uniforms he told the people to wear was denim. And he said, by coveralls similar to what I have on today, and that's the reason why I'm wearing this outfit. Number one, it's durable. He told them to just wear regular pants, another layer of pants, and then the outside, make sure it's denim. This way, if you are attacked by dogs, they won't be able to touch your skin. So that's why the overalls, the coveralls, the jumpsuits, that's how they became popular back in the 50s and the 60s. Another thing that I want to share with you is the Hush Puppies. And Hush Puppies, it's a dough made with cornmeal, flour, and whatever seasonings you put in it. And generally you would fry it. So what the people did back during the days of Dr. Martin Luther King and his road to freedom, the dogs would attack them, come around their house and attack them. And they would throw these little cornbread fritters to them, and they would say, "Hush, puppies, hush, puppies." And that's how that started. So that's a part of Black history that I learned about the Hush Puppies. I knew about the denim years ago. So there's so much more that we could learn about our races, our nationalities, and I just think that just don't start with Black history. I want to know your story. I want to know how the Italians live and how other people live and the sayings that you have and the clothes that you worn. We are all in this together. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bellin?
Thank you, Mrs. Walker. Thank you. I also just want to kind of pass along some thanks. I know I said it earlier when we were talking about the sign ordinance. I regularly pepper the administration with questions that I get from the residents, whether it's Mary Yates or Mr. Maestros or Mrs. Bujigras or Mrs. Collins. I just want to thank you guys for always responding to my inquiries, which are 99% of the time passed on from residents. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. Nothing further this evening.
Thank you. Mrs. Staffer?
Well, I would like to share my condolences also with the McDermott family. I have very fond memories working with Mr. McDermott. Just time went so quickly. But it was, he did a great job, and it was a pleasure working with him. And I also wanted to thank Shannon. I'm going to call you out here for the work on that JEDI committee. I mean, you've been so instrumental and great about putting everything together. I want to look at you and talk to you, Shannon. I sort of have my back to you. But I want to thank you very much for keeping that going, and just tell you how much I appreciate it. Nothing further.
Thank you. Mr. Fury?
I have nothing further, thank you.
Mr. Barr?
Good evening, thank you. Although I never had the privilege to serve with Mr. McDermott, I know that he made a lasting impression on this community. Being elected to office 3 times is no small feat, and I'd like to thank him posthumously for his selfless commitment to the city of Twinsburg, and my prayers are with the McDermott family. I'm very sorry for their loss. That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Nothing else from me. Thank you.
Mr. Mistos?
Thank you. I just wanted to, I know you passed the sign ordinance tonight, and I know that there were comments about the amount of work that went into it. I want to point out Larry Finch did a tremendous amount of work on that. Just want to give him credit on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Collins?
Nothing this evening.
Thank you. And I want to thank everyone for their words on Mr. McDermott, as I also didn't have an opportunity to work with him. So thank you for sharing. And thank you, Mrs. Walker, for your sharing tonight.
You're welcome.
There are no absent members to excuse, so our meeting is now adjourned at 8:15.
This is what, Daisy,